In Section 16, we're going to move into the topic of ocean import documentation. We stated when we were looking at FCL cargo, LCL cargo, that we would treat ocean import documentation as a separate subject. Here it is. In general terms, and regardless of the mode of transport, the life of an import shipment can be chronicled through the documents that are generated along the way. The documents, be they hard copy or electronic copy, really tell the story, the physical progression of cargo across a supply chain. Second bullet, the documents created for an ocean shipment are a function of the service type. We talked about full container load, LCL. We'll be talking about buyer's consol in much greater detail in our upcoming module, but these different models determine what kind of documents are required and how those documents are going to look. Quick trade tip, many of the steps in an ocean import, as well as corresponding documents, can now be generated via cloud-based trade management portals like Mercado. That is precisely what Mercado does. Back way in the day, these documents were typed up on typewriters and sent physically, literally, around the world. We don't have to do that anymore. Let's start our conversation on ocean import documentation with the Ocean Bill of Lading, the star of the show, really. The Ocean Bill of Lading, or OBL, is a document that spells out the details and conditions under which a shipment is transported from a named origin to a named destination. Let's provide a spoiler alert here and say that the Bill of Lading, it is indeed a contract between the carrier, be it a steamship line or an NVOCC, and the BCO and or shipper. As we see in our second bullet, an ocean bill of lading can serve multiple purposes. The first one, we just gave it away with that spoiler alert. It's a contract for carriage. That is a specific term used in maritime transportation. It's a contract for carriage. Carriage being the actual transport of the goods. An ocean bill of lading can also serve as proof of receipt or loading on board a vessel. Container is delivered to a terminal, loaded on board a ship. The BOL can serve as proof of receipt and loading on board that ship. Third, and this is a little bit more obscure, dating back literally hundreds of years to the earliest days of maritime transportation, a bill of lading can be a title document if it's filled out the right way. And that means that whoever is in possession of that original ocean bill of lading holds title to the goods. They are the owner based on possession of that ocean bill of lading. We'll say in our trade tip that in order for an ocean bill of lading to serve as a title document, it must be what is referred to as a negotiable to-order bill of lading. That's a little beyond what we're going to discuss here. But ocean bills of lading, original hard copy ocean bills of lading, can serve as a title document if they're filled out in the consignee box where it says to order. Let's move along with our ocean BOL discussion by saying in our first bullet that OBLs are required for both FCL and LCL shipments. Just like a passenger on a cruise ship or a plane needs a ticket, every shipment, be it an FCL shipment or an LCL shipment, needs a ticket too. It's the ocean bill of lading. As noted previously, OBLs are prepared pursuant to the specific type of contract for carriage provided to a shipper and or BCO. It could be a port-to-port move, a CY to CY move that we spoke of a bunch of times in previous sections, container yard to container yard. It could be a door-to-port move from the door of the factory to a port of arrival in the United States. Or it could be a door-to-door move from the door of a factory to the door of the importer in the U.S. It all depends on what was contracted for. Quick trade tip, OBLs that feature delivery to a final destination beyond the port of arrival, the port of discharge as we've called it also, they are referred to as through bills of lading. Goods could come into the port of Houston under the same bill of lading and be moved up to Dallas as a single shipment, a through bill of lading. There are many, many hundreds, if not thousands of examples of through BLs around the world. That's what it means. We are going to look at actual ocean bills of lading for FCL moves, LCL moves, etc. Right now, we're going to talk about the fields in those bills of lading that must be completed in order for the BL to serve as a contract for carriage. Some basic stuff, but we will run through it in some detail. First, the shipper. That's the vendor overseas that is shipping the goods. The consignee, 9 times out of 10, is going to be the importer, the BCO, the beneficial cargo owner. We will use the term consignee, BCO, importer synonymously moving forward. A notify party. Typically on a bill of lading or even on an airway bill, the notify party is usually a customs broker in the U.S. to notify, hey, this shipment has shown up, time to do the customs clearance. It doesn't have to be a customs broker, but it usually is. A booking number. The vendor is going to have to call or go online, better said, and make a booking at origin. Each booking has a booking number, oftentimes referred to as an SO, a sales order number. That's a booking number. Of course, an individual bill of lading number, and interestingly, at the bottom of this slide, a contract number. If a U.S. importer has negotiated an ocean contract with a steamship line or an NVO, that contract is going to have a number. In order for the steamship line or NVO to apply the correct rates to that shipment, the contract number has to appear on the ocean bill of lading. That's an important one. What else? Some other fields that must be completed. The pre-carriage carrier. Who did the drayage from the factory to the terminal at origin? That's what we mean there. The place of receipt by the pre-carriage carrier. Where did they get this cargo? Typically, the factory at origin. Doesn't have to be, but could be. The port of loading, the vessel name, the sailing number, just like a flight has a flight number. Every sailing of a ship has a sailing number. We need that too. The gross weight of the cargo dimensions expressed in, guess what? CBMs. Name of the forwarding agent, if there is a freight forwarder involved, and there typically is. Doesn't have to be, but there typically is. We will need that too. Freight terms, at the very least, prepaid or collect. It is actually preferable to put the Incoterms rule on the ocean bill of lading, but at the very least, prepaid or collect. Prepaid meaning that the vendor overseas is paying the main mode of transport versus collect where the U.S. importer is paying for the main mode of transport, the ocean transportation. Finally on this slide, and what exactly are those ocean charges? They have to appear on the ocean bill of lading too. What else do we need on our ocean bill of lading? This slide wrapping up what those multiple fields are on the OBL. Of course, we said we need the port of loading. It would be very nice to have the port of discharge as well. The port of discharge in the United States. Container number or numbers. This is an important little nuance we'll mention here. Ocean shipping for FCL does not require one bill of lading for one container. We could very easily ship 10 containers under one bill of lading. If we do, the container numbers have to go on the OBL. That's an important distinction to be made. Correspondingly, we'll need the seal number or numbers, the actual seal that goes on the back door of the container or containers. The number and kind of packages, 50 wooden crates as an example, and a description of the goods that we want to be what? Consistent with the other documentation, commercial invoice and a packing list. Complete, consistent, and correct documents really start with the commercial docs from the vendor, but the freight forwarder or whoever is preparing the ocean bill of lading must also be consistent with the description of the goods. They can't be different from one another. One description on an invoice versus a different description on an ocean bill of lading. That comment harkens us back to our 3 C's of documentation that we spoke of: complete, consistent, and correct. All of these fields have to be all of those things. We will wrap up this section and continue on with our story on ocean import documentation when we return.